So I've always been obsessed with Nunavut and the culture of the Inuit people here and all of the little islands that go super far north. There's Victoria Island, which famously has a bunch of recursive lakes. When you zoom in, it's just super wild what's going on there. There's Devon Island here, which is home to a lot of training for space exploration and simulating the surface of Mars or the moon. And then you have Ellesmere Island way up here, which has the community or more of a base, I guess, of Alert Canada, which a lot of other people have done videos on, but it's extremely far north. But I wanted to look at some of these less known islands. And the one that really caught my eye was this one that's kind of on its own out here and looks really barren when you're zooming in. So this island is called Meighen Island. And up to its north, there's another tiny little island called Pearly Island. And these two are part of the Queen Elizabeth Islands, but there's not a lot of information about them online. So I want to do as much digging as possible to see what goes on here. Are there any people here, or historically has anyone lived here? Are there any structures on this island? And what other secrets can we find? So when I first started researching this island, I started by simply clicking on it on Google Maps and to see if there's any information. On the left-hand side of the screen, usually there's some pictures of the place and there's some reviews, but the pictures and reviews of this place do not seem to actually line up to where this is. Some of these are absolutely hilarious, so I just wanted to read a few of them. This guy asked an honest question. I have no clue what my phone was doing, but sent me coordinates to this place. Someone replied, "Yeah, that was my buddy Eric. He is a polar bear. He says he is sorry though." This guy says, "This Australia, right?" Yes, as Einstein once said, Australia is relative. This person said, "Came here in a kayak from the Falklands, is lonely and desolate. A polar bear ate my leg off. However, it was so cold I couldn't feel it. The plus side is that going here does make for a pretty sick be real." This person gave a 5-star review. "Great place, especially if you need to write a paper on cults. I wrote an entire book in a cult here, and they told me I'm one of them now. So if I don't come back in 5 weeks, just stay quiet." Well, this was written a year ago, so I hope that person's okay. But yes, a lot of those reviews are obviously very silly and just for humor. A lot of the photos that you see on Google are also not in the correct place at all. I think the only real one is this one, but these other ones are just random places. Like this is some guy's car. There's no cars in this place. This is not the island also. So if we want to figure out what's going here, we got to dig a lot deeper than surface level. So the next thing I wanted to do was look at the Wikipedia page and see if it had anything. And when you go down to the bottom, there's only 3 references. 2 of them appear to be the same reference. So that's not a good sign that this has basically any useful information on this island. There's been no traces of Inuit people here, suggesting that it's never been inhabited before, which I thought was really cool. And that this place wasn't even really discovered until 1909 on Frederick Cook's polar expedition. So this island is pretty dang new compared to a lot of islands in the world. Even Antarctica was discovered well before this. Only a few Russian islands were discovered after this point. So this is one of the last discovered islands in the world. It seems like the first actual landing on this island was from 1916 from Stephenson's Canadian Arctic expedition, which, side note, was a pretty crazy Arctic expedition. Definitely look into it. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that I'll link down in the description, but this had a lot of controversy on it. This guy's a very controversial character. He discovered a lot of the islands up in modern day Nunavut, but how he got there was really weird. He might have abandoned his ship and abandoned everyone. I'll leave some links down below. And this place was named after a Canadian prime minister from the 20s. And that's basically it on Wikipedia. So the next step for me trying to figure out if anything goes on here is just zooming in and seeing if I could see any settlements. And I scanned pretty far and wide on this entire thing. Didn't see any buildings or structures. But one thing that did intrigue me was this ice cap in the middle. And I've noticed that there's some other islands like Victoria Island in Russia that if you go to the very top of the ice cap, sometimes you can see structures. So I zoomed in way in the top of it, and it's hard to tell, but maybe there is stuff here. Also, coming down to the south side of this ice cap, you can see something over here. Can't tell if it's exposed rock or a building. So that's something we got to look into. Also, some of these colors are really distorted. Like these colors, it's yellow, green, and blue in a stripe here, and then up here it becomes more purple. I assume this is just some processing error from the satellites, as the more north you go, as you might have known from one of my older videos, the more wild it gets. Like the top of Greenland, you cannot see anything up here. So, a place is really unknown when there's only a few things that pop up on Google search about it. And the few things that are there are really old archived papers or research articles about the place. This is one of the first ones that I found. So it's an old paper from the 1960s, I believe, talking about access to this island. And they actually describe how you can travel there from Eureka or Isashin. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but let me know in the comments if I didn't. But this will be linked in the description. But basically, they describe that you can travel from the Isashin base up to Meighen Island, where there is some sort of weather station. And that got me intrigued. Well, there is something on this island, but the problem is this paper doesn't really describe where it is or if anyone works there. They just say, yeah, if you want to fly from this place to this place, you got to avoid these certain things and the fog. And they talk about mostly the flying, which is fine. I guess that's what the purpose of this paper was. But I wanted to figure out what the station was. And they do mention that the ice cap station is 790 feet above sea level. So that does give us a clue of where it could be. So next I searched this island on Google Images, and one of the images that I'm showing right now popped up twice, but when you click on the image, it comes up to this paid wall article from the Globe and Mail, and it's really hard to see, but it does appear that this image is from Meighen Island and was taken by a guy named David Burgess. So that name is our next clue to figuring out what's going on here, if we can search his name and see if he's tied to anything. So then I found this article, Ice Cap, Changes in Geometry, Mass, and Climatic Responses, written by David Burgess and Bradley Danielson. So this is a 13-page article talking all about the ice caps in the area and how the ice cap has changed. I kind of read a little bit of it, and it seems like a lot of these ice caps are lowering in size. Definitely read the entire article if you're interested in more. But when you scroll down, you see that they show that ice cap and they have some markers on it. They show an automatic weather station about right up in the middle of the top of where the ice cap is. And then down here, they have a star at a summit borehole site. They also have a bunch of mass balance poles around the area. So it's clear that people have been here and there are structures. So maybe that picture that David Burgess took was this automatic weather station that's in the middle part of this image. They also reference that place in this image as well. And you can see that the ice cap has been shrinking since 1960, 1999, and then this is where it is in 2016. There's also this other paper from the Geological Survey of Canada, Mass Balance of the Devon, Meighen, and South Melville ice caps. So that's pretty cool. And when you read through this, they show a lot of the similar pictures from the other research article and showing that automatic weather station up here. So I think that's our key to see where that building is. I eventually also got to this from naturalresources.canada. And it also appears to be from David Burgess. And it shows an entire 50-day expedition going through all these ice caps. I think it would be so cool to be someone doing this. I don't have the scientific knowledge for this, but I would love to go along on one of these one day. What they do, right, that they spent 24 hours at the Meighen ice cap. And you can see some of the pictures here. They landed up playing on the snow here in the ice cap. They're flying over here. You can't see any obvious structures from these photos. Doesn't seem like they spent very long there. They only had 24 hours to complete their task, but it does show that this place has been monitored since 1959 at the summit, which does appear to be where that automatic weather station is. So from what I can tell, in the 1960s, people originally built this bottom layer of the three structures here, and then ice and snow kept building up. So they built the second one later, and then ice and snow kept building up even further. So they had to build a third structure on top for the weather station and for people to come here and check out those poles, kind of like David Burgess is doing today. But then in 2012, there was a lot of melting in that area, and all three of the structures got exposed, which led to this photo being taken. So let's see if we can see that structure definitively on maps. And I'm using Apple Maps because you can actually see a lot clearer when you zoom in for some reason than Google Maps. As I'm zooming in, you start to be able to see a lot better detail than what we saw earlier in Google Maps. It does seem like there are some things with pretty big shadows up here. There might be something here. And then there's some structure that kind of looks like a face on top, but has a pretty big shadow. Same thing over here. So it's possible that one of these is that automatic weather station or that 3-story building that's on the ice cap, but I'm not 100% sure. Also, coming more south, we can see that other summit of the mountain. And this is where another structure seems to be. This might be where that building actually is. You can see pretty clearly that this shadow is like a box. And it does appear that this is some sort of building. It is possible that this is some sort of rock, but just the fact that you see all these 90-degree angles does indicate that this is some sort of building. So maybe this is where that 3-story building is. But other than that, there doesn't seem to be any other structures on this island, any historical people that lived here, and honestly, not much more information online about this place at all. So if you like this style of exploration and this style of videos, check out my last video in the bottom left corner about examining a mysterious structure up in the Russian Arctic. Thanks for watching.